Chapter 1, Stranded. Rob and his friends had been enjoying their vacation on a luxurious cruise ship, but their joy was short-lived. Suddenly, a violent storm hit the ship, causing it to capsize. They were lucky to have found a lifeboat and climbed aboard before the ship sank. However, the storm had carried them off course, and they found themselves stranded on an unknown island. As they gathered their bearings, they realized that they were not alone on the island. Strange creatures roamed the land, and the group was not sure if they were friendly or not. They needed to find a way to survive and get off the island. Longo_man, an experienced survivalist, quickly took charge of the situation. He had his survival kit with him and began to assess their resources. He found that they had enough supplies to last them for a few weeks, but they needed to find a way to replenish their food and water supply. Gaming Ramon suggested that they explore the island and look for fresh water sources. Gank and Hapir volunteered to join him, and they set off to explore the island's interior. Meanwhile, CC Defender helped Rob and Erebus set up a shelter on the beach. Days turned into weeks, and the group struggled to find a way off the island. They tried to signal for help by lighting fires and constructing SOS signals on the beach, but to no avail. They also tried to build a raft to escape, but the rough seas made it impossible to venture too far from the shore. One day, while on a food-gathering expedition, Gaming Ramon and Gank stumbled upon a strange structure deep in the jungle. It was a hidden temple, and inside, they found an ancient artifact that seemed to hold a powerful energy. They brought it back to the group, and after examining it, they realized that it could be the key to their escape. Excited by this discovery, the group worked together to decipher the artifact's mysterious symbols and activate its power. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the artifact, and a portal opened up before them. They knew that this was their chance to escape and made a run for the portal. But as they entered the portal, they realized that they had no idea where it would lead them. Would they end up in a worse situation, or would they finally find their way back home? Only time would tell. Chapter 2, The Discovery. It had been 3 days since the group had been stranded on the island. They had explored the beach and the surrounding forest, but had yet to find any sign of civilization or rescue. Rob had taken charge, organizing a makeshift shelter and dividing up the responsibilities among the group. Erebus and Longo_man were in charge of finding food and water, while Gaming Ramon and Gank were tasked with gathering firewood and building the shelter. Hapir and CC Defender were assigned the job of keeping watch for any potential dangers. The island was full of unknown creatures and they couldn't be too careful. As they were exploring a nearby cave system, they stumbled upon something unexpected. There, in the depths of the cave, they found an old abandoned research facility. The facility appeared to have been deserted for years, but it was a sign of civilization nonetheless. The group was hesitant to enter, but Rob insisted that they needed to investigate if they were to find any clues or supplies that could aid them in their survival. As they entered the facility, they found that the power was still functioning, providing them with much needed light. They began to explore the different rooms and laboratories, searching for any useful supplies. In one of the labs, they discovered a map of the island. It was old and weathered, but it gave them a better understanding of the lay of the land. They also found some medical supplies and food that had not yet expired. As they were about to leave the facility, they heard a noise coming from one of the nearby rooms. They cautiously made their way over, only to find a small group of survivors huddled together. The group was relieved to find others on the island, but they were also wary of their new companions. They introduced themselves as a research team that had been studying the island when disaster struck. Rob and his group welcomed them with open arms, knowing that they needed to work together if they were to survive on the island. They shared their supplies and began to plan their next moves. With their newfound allies, the group felt more confident in their ability to survive on the island. But they also knew that there were still many unknown dangers lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. Chapter 3, Facing Challenges. As the days went by on the island, the group of friends found themselves settling into a routine. They had set up a makeshift shelter and were able to find enough food and water to sustain themselves. However, they couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that came with not knowing where they were or how to get back home. One morning, while Rob was out fishing, he heard a rustling in the bushes behind him. He turned around to see a figure emerging from the foliage. It was a tall, muscular man with a shaved head and a stern expression on his face. He introduced himself as WTF-27PL, and explained that he had been stranded on the island for months before the group had arrived. WTF-27PL proved to be a valuable addition to the group. He had already explored much of the island and knew where to find the best sources of food and water. He was also skilled in building and construction, and helped the group to improve their shelter and create basic tools for survival. As they worked together, the group began to open up more to each other. Erebus, who had been quiet and reserved since arriving on the island, shared his knowledge of survival skills and hunting techniques. Gaming Ramon regaled them with stories of his gaming exploits, and Gank entertained them with his acrobatic skills. Despite their dire situation, the group found themselves bonding over their shared experiences and discovering new things about each other. And with WTF-27PL's help, they were able to make the most of their situation and work towards finding a way off the island. Chapter 4, Into the Unknown. As the group of friends continued to explore the mysterious island, they stumbled upon a cave that seemed to lead deep into the heart of the land. Despite their reservations, they decided to venture inside, curious to see where it would lead them. As they journeyed deeper into the cave, the group encountered all manner of strange creatures and obstacles. They had to use their wits and skills to navigate the treacherous terrain, and it soon became clear that they were truly in the unknown. Despite the dangers, the friends pressed on, driven by their thirst for adventure and discovery. But as they drew closer to the heart of the cave, they began to realize that something was watching them, something ancient and powerful, lurking in the shadows and waiting for its chance to strike. Chapter 5, Strange Discoveries. After spending a few days on the island, the group began to explore their surroundings. Erebus and Rob ventured into the forest to gather resources for shelter, while the others stayed near the beach to search for any signs of civilization or resources. As they were exploring, Gank stumbled upon a cave hidden behind a dense thicket of bushes. He called out to the others, and they all gathered around the entrance to the cave. Hapir, being the most adventurous of the group, suggested they explore the cave and see what they could find. The group cautiously entered the cave, holding torches to light their way. The cave was dark and damp, with the sound of water dripping echoing throughout. After a few minutes of walking, they stumbled upon a large underground chamber, illuminated by a mysterious blue light emanating from a glowing crystal. As they approached the crystal, they noticed strange symbols etched into the walls of the chamber. They couldn't decipher the symbols, but they knew they were ancient and unlike anything they had ever seen before. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise coming from deeper in the cave. WTF-27PL, being the most alert of the group, cautiously ventured further into the cave to investigate. As he approached the noise, he noticed movement in the shadows. He quickly alerted the others and they all prepared for a potential threat. As the movement in the shadows grew closer, they could make out the figure of a large creature. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, with sharp claws and glowing eyes. The group quickly realized they were in danger and prepared to fight. The creature charged towards them, but the group managed to fend it off with their weapons. After defeating the creature, they examined its body and realized it was unlike any known species on Earth. The group was shaken by this discovery and decided to leave the cave, fearing more dangerous creatures lurking in the shadows. As they made their way back to the beach, they discussed what they had found and how they could potentially use it to their advantage. Little did they know, this was only the beginning of their strange discoveries on the island. Chapter 6, Mysterious Discoveries. As the days went by on the island, the group of friends continued to explore and search for a way to escape. One day, they stumbled upon a series of mysterious ruins hidden deep in the jungle. As they cautiously made their way through the ruins, they discovered strange artifacts and carvings that seemed to depict a lost civilization. Excitement and curiosity overwhelmed the group as they continued to explore the ruins. Suddenly, they heard a loud rumbling noise and the ground shook beneath their feet. Alarmed, they quickly made their way out of the ruins, but not before they discovered a strange glowing crystal hidden in the center of the ruins. Puzzled by the strange occurrence, the group decided to investigate the crystal further. They found that it emitted a strange energy, unlike anything they had ever encountered before. As they tried to figure out what the crystal was, they began to feel an intense power emanating from it. What could this mysterious crystal be, and what kind of power does it hold? The group's journey on the island had just become even more intriguing and dangerous. Chapter 7, The Mysterious Caves. As the group continued their exploration of the island, they stumbled upon a series of dark and mysterious caves hidden within the thick jungle foliage. Erebus led the way with his trusty torch, casting eerie shadows on the walls as they descended deeper into the earth. The group was awestruck by the natural beauty of the caves, filled with glittering stalactites and stalagmites. However, as they ventured further, they began to notice strange markings on the walls, almost like ancient runes. Suddenly, they heard a low growling sound coming from deep within the cave. Rob immediately drew his sword, ready to defend the group from whatever threat was lurking in the shadows. But as the growling grew louder, they realized it wasn't coming from any animal they had encountered before. WTF-27PL stepped forward, his eyes focused on the markings on the walls. He began to decipher the symbols, muttering to himself in a language the others couldn't understand. Suddenly, the growling stopped, and the ground began to shake beneath their feet. A massive boulder rolled out of a hidden chamber, revealing a hidden passage. The group cautiously entered, unsure of what they would find on the other side. Chapter 8, A Strange Discovery. As the days passed, the stranded friends were becoming more and more desperate for a way off the island. They had searched every inch of the shore for any sign of civilization, but to no avail. One day, while wandering through the dense jungle, they stumbled upon a strange structure hidden among the trees. It appeared to be made of stone, with intricate carvings and markings etched into the walls. As they cautiously approached, they heard a low humming sound emanating from within. The group exchanged nervous glances before deciding to investigate. Inside, they found a series of chambers filled with strange machinery and devices unlike anything they had ever seen before. At the center of the complex was a massive crystal, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. As they examined the crystal, they heard a voice calling out to them. It was a voice they had never heard before, but somehow familiar at the same time. "Welcome, travelers. I am the guardian of this place. You have been chosen to fulfill a great destiny. Take hold of the crystal, and your journey will begin." The friends looked at each other, unsure of what to do. But something deep inside them urged them forward. They each placed a hand on the crystal, and in an instant, they were engulfed in blinding light. When the light subsided, the friends found themselves in a strange new world, filled with wonders and dangers they could never have imagined. And so, their true adventure began. Chapter 9, The Discovery. As the group continued to explore the island, they stumbled upon a mysterious cave hidden in a dense thicket of vines. Rob, being the adventurous type, suggested they investigate further. They cautiously made their way through the cave, their flashlights illuminating the way. Suddenly, they heard a strange rumbling noise, and the ground began to shake beneath their feet. As they rounded a corner, they were met with an awe-inspiring sight. The cave opened up into a massive underground chamber, filled with glittering crystals of all colors and sizes. But that wasn't the only thing they discovered. In the center of the chamber stood a strange device, humming with a faint energy. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. They approached the device cautiously, examining it from all angles. As they did, they began to feel a strange energy emanating from it, almost like it was communicating with them. Suddenly, a blinding light filled the chamber, and the group was enveloped in a strange, pulsating energy. When the light faded, they found themselves standing outside the cave, feeling different somehow. They couldn't quite put their finger on it, but they all knew that something had changed within them. And as they looked back at the cave, they couldn't shake the feeling that there was much more to this island than they had ever imagined. Chapter 10, The Portal. The group of friends had been stranded on the mysterious island for a year, and they had learned to adapt to the harsh environment. They had built shelters, found sources of food and water, and even made some friends with the local wildlife. But they all missed their families and friends back home, and they longed to return. One day, while exploring the island, they stumbled upon a strange structure that seemed out of place. It was made of a metal that they had never seen before, and it hummed with a strange energy. As they approached it, they noticed a shimmering portal in the center. Rob cautiously approached the portal, and as he did, he felt a strange sensation wash over him. It was like he was being pulled in two directions at once. He stepped back, slightly alarmed, and turned to the others. "What is this thing?" he asked. "I don't know," Longo_man replied, "but it looks like some kind of portal." Gaming Ramon stepped forward, eager to investigate. "Maybe it can take us back home," he exclaimed. The others hesitated, unsure if they should take such a risk. But they all agreed that they missed their families and wanted to go home. "We should at least try it," Hapir said. They all stood in front of the portal, uncertain of what would happen next. But they had come this far, and they were willing to take the risk. Gank took a deep breath and stepped forward. He closed his eyes and braced himself for whatever was going to happen next. Suddenly, he felt a strange sensation wash over him, like he was being pulled through a tube. He opened his eyes and found himself standing in the middle of a busy city street. The others followed him through the portal, one by one. They were all disoriented at first, but soon realized that they had made it back to their own world. As they looked around at their surroundings, they realized how much they had missed the comforts of home. The familiar sights and sounds brought back a flood of memories, and they all felt a sense of relief and joy wash over them. But as happy as they were to be back, they all knew that they couldn't stay away from the island forever. There were still mysteries to be solved and adventures to be had. And so, they made a plan to return to the island and continue their exploration. They knew that they were taking a risk, but they also knew that the rewards could be great. As they stood there, gazing at the portal that had brought them home, they all felt a sense of excitement and anticipation for what lay ahead. The adventure wasn't over yet. Chapter 11, The End of the Island Adventure. As the group stepped through the portal, they were filled with a mix of relief and sadness. They were happy to be going home, but they would miss the island and the adventure they had experienced there. Rob, Erebus, Longo_man, Gaming Ramon, Gank, Hapir, CC Defender, and WTF27PL all stood in a circle, taking in their surroundings. They were back in the forest where they had originally entered the portal, but it looked different now. The trees were greener, the birds were chirping louder, and the sun was shining brighter. Rob looked at his friends and smiled. "Well, we made it back in one piece," he said. "And we have a way to come back if we ever want to." Erebus nodded. "But let's not forget the lessons we learned on the island," he said. "We need to be grateful for what we have and not take anything for granted." The group agreed, and they all went their separate ways, promising to keep in touch and meet up again soon. As Rob walked home, he thought about all the experiences he had on the island. He had faced danger, made new friends, and discovered things about himself that he never knew before. He realized that the island had changed him for the better, and he was grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of it. When he finally arrived home, he was greeted by his family, who had been worried sick about him. He hugged them tightly and told them all about his adventure on the island. They listened intently, amazed by the stories he had to tell. As he settled back into his normal routine, Rob couldn't help but feel a sense of longing for the island. He missed the fresh air, the beautiful scenery, and the sense of adventure that came with each day. He knew that he would have to go back someday. But for now, he was content with his memories and the knowledge that he had grown as a person because of his time on the island. He was grateful for the experience and would never forget it.